Hello everyone, and welcome to the Cowboy Spur. I'm Mir Mahfouz, I'm in 11th grade, and I'm the co-sports editor.
And I'm James Balcom, the boys soccer coach at Coppell High School. This is my fourth year as the head coach, and
The Cowboy Spur is a weekly podcast that rotates topics around a set schedule. Discussion will focus on news, sports, entertainment, student life, and opinions, with the occasional offshoot episode where we just mess around and have fun. Every week, we will feature a story from Coppell Student Media. This week, our story of the week is Never Quit, Never Die. Moyer Brothers Display Competitive Spirit Across Multiple Sports by Varshita Karapalu. Here are the first couple of lines of the story. Whether it is a dive into tranquil water at the Coppell YMCA pool or a flawless pass to a fellow lacrosse teammate, Coppell Junior triplets Jack, Scott, and Luke Moyer possess a common attitude in their sportsmanship, a sense of competitiveness. Make sure to visit Coppell Student Media to read the rest of the story. Speaking of playing for multiple teams, how difficult has it been for you to bring multiple teams into Coppell and say host a tournament?
Back January 7th through 9th, we hosted the NTXES showcase, and we changed our format a little bit this year, so the 8 teams that first played here Thursday stayed with us through Saturday. But kind of going into that week and the week before, we just had to make sure everybody knew the protocols, ticket information, that we had live broadcasts, which has been a good thing to come out of this COVID protocol stuff, is we're able to stream some games for people who don't want to be in attendance or can't travel. Just getting teams to come and know that we're still going to put the tournament on was obviously the first thing. We had to stay mainly local teams this year. Years past, we have teams from California, Arizona, Mississippi, Louisiana come in. And so this year is just local, but we still fielded a lot of good teams.
Okay, and in terms of transportation, how difficult has it been to get players to and from games, and how do you know who you can take, how many you can take, how many buses you need, the driver, and all of that? How do you plan for that?
The transportation is definitely a headache this year. We've got to make sure we don't put, more than an allotment of kids on a bus. So we've been able to kind of average it out, one team per bus on the way there. We've had to incorporate middle school coaches to help drive. A couple football coaches, Shane Patterson's helped drive as well. But on the way home, we ask that kids try to ride home with their parents that way, because we only have one bus coming home. So that's been good. But we're also kind of realizing that, maybe the bus ride to and from each game isn't the necessity that we once thought, that kids, with their parents and travel can get to places on time and be responsible enough to make that happen. So, that might be something we look at moving forward. But I do think the kids kind of miss the relationship side of things after a win, coming home on the bus. Looking back as an athlete, I know most kids, that's their favorite part of playing a sport. So, we want to make sure we're still providing things like that, but also making sure kids stay safe, that if somebody does test positive, we're able to quarantine small groups and not an entire team. So, with travel, there's a lot to consider this year.
And for the parents who are concerned, what do you do to ensure that your players are following the protocols, especially in these buses where these kids are together for 30, 40 minutes going on a long bus ride?
It's definitely trying to space kids out 6 feet as much as we can. I think we have a system in place if somebody were to test positive. Hopefully, it's not going to spread to anybody else. If it does, at most 1 or 2 players would be affected by it. Masks on the whole time, and just doing what we can there. We do have kids from each team that are riding to the games with their parents, so that does kind of help space things out a little bit. And other than that, you just try to manage things the best you can. It's a pandemic, and unfortunately, it's spread rapidly and quickly. So we try to do our best, and I think program wide. We've quarantined a few kids. One JV team was quarantined. Outside of that, I'm not sure if we've had any one positive case this year. So, through our management of everything, I feel like we've done a very good job keeping everybody safe and healthy.
Coming into it, we knew that this season would be different than most every season we've ever experienced. And I know from a player's perspective, everything has been somewhat of what I expected with the pandemic. But, going into the locker room or going on a bus after a win is not the same. And especially traveling to Austin, that's something we look forward to every year. But, we can't do that this year. So from a coaching perspective, exactly how different has it been from what you expected in terms of getting everyone on the field and just overall managing the team?
Yeah, it's away from the field. It is a lot different. The social aspect of why kids play on a team and be in a program has changed a lot. Unfortunately, we're missing out on a lot of those opportunities that we want to provide to the kids that they always look back and enjoy. But when the whistle blows and we're on the field, it's as usual. The kids, I think, even more so, are fired up to play. Season getting cut short last year. A lot of questions left unanswered. So the social side of playing a sport and being a part of a team and program has been something that we can't provide this year. But at the same time, when the kids get on the field, it's for the most part kind of how things have always been. Like you said, the trip to Austin is something we look forward to every year. I think it's a big part of when we come together as a team. And, unfortunately, we haven't been able to do that this year. Hopefully, we get to experience it in April in the state tournament, though. So, that opportunity is still there if we can make it happen.
And going based on that traveling to Austin tournament, what considerations did you have to make? And ultimately, why did you decide for us not to travel down to Austin?
Yeah, talking with other coaches, really the only coaches I saw that did travel were from private schools that have just a little bit different regulations and things they look at. But in the end, it's can you keep the kids fully safe when you travel on a bus for 4 hours and hotels and restaurants? And, that's a tough question to answer. You could come back and everybody stays healthy and safe, or, if one kid were to test positive and it spreads, then you've put your team in a difficult situation going into closing in on district. So that's something we had to consider. And in the end, I having to space kids out in the hotel, not being able to go to restaurants or doing activities that are team building, I don't think we would have been able to provide. So the essence of that trip is then changed, and it kind of loses its purpose. So that was kind of the decisions behind it. And, we still had a good tournament here, but yeah, the loss on travel definitely, hurt as far as a team bonding experience.
And I know that obviously traveling down to Austin would give you exposure to playing different levels of teams, different teams from across the state. So speaking of playing multiple high-level teams, I wanted to break down each district in our region to see how we and everyone else fares. So from District 1, 6A, and 2, 6A, which is the El Paso and Midland schools, I don't know much about them, but Conrado, Franklin, and Socorro are all undefeated right now. So do you know anything about those districts?
I have not seen District 1 really at all, haven't looked. I do know whoever comes out of that district every year is a potential team that can go on to the state tournament. And, just kind of eyeball them throughout the year. For us, we wouldn't see anybody till the regional tournament. So, I'm currently working on our state district standings right now. So we're going to get that out to all the coaches and then start to kind of pay attention to, what teams are doing what. But, for right now, kind of been focused on our team, our district, and some local teams. So, but, yeah, anybody coming out of El Paso, we know is going to be tough.
And then moving to District 3, 6A, the Fort Worth schools don't really seem to have the best of records, with only one school having an above 500. So are they just not that high level of a district, or what do you think is going on there?
Some of that could be just opponents. Maybe they've played some tough opponents. Yeah, I know that district, as you kind of get away from the Dallas area, you go further out west, the club soccer scene isn't as big. So, you kind of lose out on that a little bit. from the Fort Worth side, but I know they're growing that, and there's some new leagues popping up trying to help that area get established more in the club soccer world. So, that could be something to keep an eye on moving forward.
And then coming closer into our area, District 4-6A, Keller and Timber Creek both are doing really well right now. But I feel like Southlake, if they get their guys back, they should also be one of those top teams to look for.
Yeah, there's 4 teams looking like, they might have an argument in that district. We played Timber Creek on Friday. They've, I think last year would have been their first year to make playoffs had we finished the season, so they're coming off that high. And they've played well this year. Keller, they've got a couple kids who could be 2 of the best players in the state right now, and you put that with some other solid players around them, and they're going to be a tough out of the playoffs. Southlake and their tradition, at some point they're going to figure it out as a lot of their dudes return. They're going to be tough, and Byron Nelson is always one to watch. Just the physical style that they play and the athletes they have will make it difficult on a lot of teams in that district, but. Yeah, I like Keller and Southlake to be around as we get closer to that regional tournament.
And then for potential first-round matchups for us, obviously in District 5-6A, we have Allen, McKinney Boyd, and Denton Guyer. And Denton Guyer obviously won the tournament we hosted. Mm-hmm. So those 3 are looking pretty good.
Yeah, we get to see McKinney Boyd tonight. Marcus plays Allen tonight as well. So we kind of got 2 little head-to-head matchup with that district tonight, and be interesting to see how everybody matches up, because until now you just try to look at like opponents and see who did what, but it's going to benefit whoever finishes first and second in our district when it comes to playoffs, because if you got to face Allen right off the bat, first round of playoffs, it's going to be a tough ask. So our goal looking at it is definitely going to be get that first or second seed going into playoffs.
And then for District 6A, our district, would it be safe to say that Marcus is once again the team to beat?
They're up there. Yeah, I know they graduated a couple of their 3 or 4 of their better scoring threats, but they've surrounded them with some young guys and very strong in the back. They're going to be a tough opponent. I know Flower Mound is on the upside again, 2 years coming off state. They're going to be tough. Hebron always plays as tough. And then you mix in the Planos. So, yeah, Marcus definitely coming off the year they had last year, but, going out, we beat them second part of district. So, they're a tough team, but I think they are definitely beatable. So it's going to be who stays the most consistent and healthy, who has their starters throughout the year, is going to have a good argument when it comes to the district title race.
And then for District 7-6A, with obviously the Irving schools moving into that district this year, you think Irving still will have a really good chance there, or is Lake Highlands and Pierce and Richardson too good for them?
Pierce, I like to see Pierce and Irving play head to head. 2 completely different styles going up against each other, and we've seen Irving this year, and they look very solid. And if they can continue to keep it together and progress throughout district, they're going to be good moving forward. And Pierce is always big, strong, physical. Playing against them is always tough. So I like those 2 teams coming out, and after that we'll have to kind of see how it shakes out.
And then for the last district in our region with District 8-6A, obviously we lost to Sam Houston in this previous week. But do you think Grand Prairie is still probably the team to beat here?
Yeah, I've talked to some of the coaches in that district. Bowie is struggling with COVID stuff, fallout of COVID, whether it's grades and kids remote learning and that kind of stuff. Bowie has lost quite a few players. SGP looks to be solid too, though. They've had some mixed results, but I think they'll be solid. Sam Houston, they play well. They're going to be in the mix. But yeah, Grand Prairie, from what we've seen so far, looks to be the favorite.
And those are the schools for our region, and so we could see any of those schools in the first 5 rounds of playoffs. But past that 5th round, who do you think could come up in the rest of the state tournament?
From everything I've heard out of San Antonio Lee is looking like the team again. They just had 2 kids commit to D1 school, I want to say somewhere in Carolina. But anytime you have 2 kids going on to play Division I soccer in college, you've got something there. And then we'll just kind of see Houston. I know Katie Seven Lakes has had some young players last year that are going to step up and be a solid team. And you can never write off Leaf Elzick. So, those 3 teams down south, are definitely going to be around towards the end. Lake Travis has had a good run so far too. So those would be the 4 schools I kind of keep an eye on as the year goes on.
Thank you all for joining us in this episode of the Cowboy Spur. Next week we will have our news episode. Until next time, this is the Cowboy Spur signing off.